Have you ever imagined strapping yourself into a cockpit smaller than your bathtub powered by a modified snowmobile engine and taking off into the clouds? Can a machine this incredibly tiny even be legally called an airplane? Amazingly. Thanks to the Federal Aviation Administration Part 103 loophole, if an unpowered airframe weighs under 254 pounds and carries less than 5 gallons of gas, you do not even need a pilot's license. Today, we are looking at 10 of the most extreme micro-aircraft ever built. Now hit that subscribe button and stay with me until the very end, because the last one looks less like a plane and more like a rocket-powered go-kart that escaped the highway. Kicking off our list is a Canadian classic that perfectly exploits the Federal Aviation Administration Part 103 ultralight regulations, the Fisher FP303. Born in the early 1980s, this single-seat, low-wing monoplane is the ultimate weekend garage project for any aviation enthusiast, powered by a modest 50-horsepower Rotax 503 two-stroke engine. This little bird tips the scales at just under 250 pounds. This weight slides it perfectly into the legal category that requires zero pilot licensing, offering absolute freedom. When you walk up to the FP303, the first thing you notice is the stunning craftsmanship. Because this entire aircraft is constructed almost entirely out of wood, utilizing a lattice framework of spruce strips glued together. It creates a skeletal structure that is both incredibly strong and shockingly light, covered in conventional aircraft fabric. The plane has a vintage classic aesthetic resembling a 1930s barnstormer. You can often find these kits for just a few $1,000s, making it a highly accessible entry point into genuine aviation. You literally sit in an open cockpit, feeling the propeller wash right in your face, surrounded by the smell of varnished wood and burning two-stroke oil. It was designed to give the everyday blue-collar worker a taste of pure, unadulterated flight, without being suffocated by the red tape of modern factory aviation laws. The sheer joy of building a flying machine in your garage with standard woodworking tools is an unbeatable feeling. However, if building a wooden plane sounds impressive, wait until you see the machine. That brings World War I dogfights home. Stepping back in time, we have the Airdrome Fauler E3, an absolute masterpiece of historical replication that can be built to sneak entirely under Part 103 ultralight regulations. Originally, the 1915 Fokker Eindecker was a feared German fighter plane that revolutionized aerial combat. Airdrome airplanes figured out a brilliant way to shrink that terrifying history into a micro package. When equipped with a lightweight half-Volkswagen engine conversion or a small Rotax, this machine gives you the exact same open-air flying experience as the World War I aces. Visually, this aircraft is an absolute showstopper on the tarmac. Instead of the complex wood and canvas of the 1915 original, the modern Airdrome version utilizes aircraft-grade aluminum tubing fastened with heavy-duty blind rivets wrapped in classic doped fabric. The iconic wire-braced monoplane wings span just over 25 feet. And sitting in the cockpit behind that spinning prop, you are entirely exposed to the elements. The scale is perfectly reduced so a grown man can fit comfortably, yet it possesses a rugged, aggressive stance that commands absolute respect. Flying this replica is a visceral mechanical experience to the bone, where you feel every vibration of the engine and hear the wind howling through the heavy bracing wires. It taps directly into the golden age of aviation nostalgia, allowing modern weekend warriors to patrol their local airspace. Exactly like the Red Baron himself, bypassing commercial manufacturing standards. It is an aircraft for those who want their flight to smell like rich exhaust. While the Fokker relies on historical charm and a screaming gas engine, our next aircraft trades the noise for eerie silence. Shattering the loud, oil-soaked stereotype of ultralight flying is the Yuneec eSpyder, a machine that represents the bleeding edge of modern micro-aviation. Developed in the early 2000s by an electric aviation pioneer, The eSpyder achieved full certification in Europe while remaining perfectly compliant with the United States Part 103 ultralight laws. Instead of a rattling gas engine, it relies on a 24-kilowatt electric motor paired with a massive lithium-ion battery pack, pushing out the equivalent of 32 horsepower for up to an hour of silent cruising. The design of the eSpyder is strikingly futuristic yet profoundly minimalist, resembling a high-tech flying insect gliding through the air. It features a single slender fuselage tube, a forward-swept high wing, and a bucket seat completely exposed right out in the open sky. Because there is no bulky fuel tank or massive exhaust system, the motor housing is incredibly compact. This allows for a highly efficient aerodynamic profile. When taking off, it looks like a sleek piece of modern sporting equipment, stripped down to the absolute bare essentials of flight. The most jarring part about the eSpyder is the oral experience, or rather the complete lack of it, without the deafening roar of a combustion engine. The pilot only hears the slicing sound of the propeller blades and the wind rushing past their helmet. It feels significantly closer to paragliding than actually piloting a motorized airplane. It is the ultimate stealth cruiser for the weekend pilot. Electric flight might be the future, but if you strip an aircraft down to nothing but a spinning blade, you get something far more extreme. If you have ever looked at a standard helicopter and thought it had way too many parts, the Hungaropter is exactly what you have been looking for. Hailing from Hungary, this ultra-lightweight rotary wing machine is the absolute definition of a skeleton chopper. While too heavy for the United States Part 103 category, it perfectly exploits the experimental regulations. This allows backyard builders to construct and register a highly capable helicopter outside of standard factory certification, utilizing a powerful Subaru or Rotax engine pushing over 100 horsepower. Looking at the Hungaropter, it is terrifyingly bare bones. Consisting of little more than a tubular metal frame, a vertical rotor mast, a massive engine block, and a single seat. There are absolutely no doors, no windshield, and zero fuselage to protect your body from the elements. You are literally strapped to the outside of an engine, while massive blades spin furiously just inches above your head. The dashboard is just a tiny metal plate with essential analog gauges, giving it a raw post-apocalyptic industrial aesthetic that demands serious respect. Piloting this skeleton chopper requires serious nerve, as every mechanical movement, aggressive vibration, and heavy rotor wash is transferred directly into the pilot's spine. It is used primarily by hardcore aviation enthusiasts, those who crave the unmatched thrill of hovering over their property with an unobstructed 360-degree view. It provides a pure, unadulterated connection between man, raging machine, and gravity. Flying a skeleton chopper undoubtedly takes guts, but not quite as much as climbing into our next machine, which literally looks like a highly modified flying tricycle. Emerging from the Czech Republic, the future vehicle's Dingo is a microtrike aircraft pushing the absolute boundaries of how little material you actually need to achieve flight. Designed specifically for the European single-seat market and perfectly fitting the United States Part 103 ultralight limit, this fascinating machine is a weight-shift control aircraft blended with fixed-wing elements. It is powered by a tiny buzzing Viterazzi paramotor engine, generating just enough thrust to push its featherlight under 200-pound frame gracefully into the open sky. Visually, the Dingo looks exactly like a high-performance racing go-kart that someone accidentally bolted a massive set of wings onto. The pilot sits in a highly reclined carbon fiber bucket seat, surrounded by a minimalist tricycle landing gear setup that is remarkably smaller than a standard golf cart. The wing structure sits high above the pilot, attached via a single sturdy mast, leaving the cockpit completely open to the wind. Its compact folding design means you can easily load the entire aircraft into the back of a standard pickup truck. The Dingo is celebrated globally for its incredible maneuverability and the pure go-kart-like joy it delivers at low altitudes. It is the absolute perfect machine for flying low and slow over open green fields, feeling the intense rush of the ground speeding by just a few feet below your rubber tires. It effectively brings aviation down from the stratosphere and right into the hands of the everyday adventurer. The Dingo is tiny, but it simply cannot compare to the historical pioneer of microflight that started this entire crazy obsession. Long before the Federal Aviation Administration existed, or carbon fiber was even invented, aviation pioneer Alberto Santos Dumont created the granddaddy of all microaircraft, the Demoiselle. First flown in France in 1907, this was arguably the world's first series production aircraft, designed specifically to be lightweight and accessible to the masses, powered by a custom-built two-cylinder boxer engine producing a meager 20 to 30 horsepower. The Demoiselle was an absolute featherweight, weighing barely 240 pounds empty. Santos Dumont famously released the blueprints entirely for free. The design of the Demoiselle is a beautiful, fragile-looking web of raw bamboo, tense wire, and thin fabric. That looks significantly more like a massive kite than a real airplane. The pilot sits incredibly low to the ground, positioned directly underneath the high-mounted main wing, essentially sitting right on the bare tricycle landing gear. The engine and spinning propeller are mounted slightly above and directly in front of the pilot's face, creating a terrifyingly close physical proximity between the fragile human body and fast-moving exposed mechanical engine parts. Flying the Demoiselle was notoriously twitchy and demanding, literally requiring the pilot to lean their physical body side to side to warp the wings for basic steering control. Despite its extreme fragility, it became a massive global sensation, proving to the world that you did not need a military-grade budget to experience the miracle of flight. It stands today as a timeless testament to pure mechanical ingenuity. The Demoiselle proved microflight was possible, but in the 1950s, someone decided to shrink a classic stunt biplane down to motorcycle proportions. If you take the aggressive, muscular styling of a classic aerobatic biplane and hit it with a shrink ray, you get the incredible Baby Great Lakes. Designed in the late 1950s, this home-built beauty was created to give average guys the thrill of open-cockpit biplane flying on a working-class budget. Because it has an empty weight of around 475 pounds, it bypasses factory regulations by falling under the experimental amateur-built category. Typically powered by a Volkswagen flat 4 engine, this tiny Titan kicks out up to 80 horsepower. To truly understand the scale of the Baby Great Lakes, imagine a fully functional aircraft with a total wingspan of just 16 feet and 8 inches. That makes it significantly shorter than the overall length of a standard Ford F-150 pickup truck. It features the classic stacked double-wing biplane configuration, complete with rigid wooden struts and heavy tension wires, but scaled down so drastically that a tall pilot looks almost comically large sitting inside. The fabric-covered tubular steel fuselage gives it an aggressive bulldog stance, ready to rip the sky. Despite its adorable size, the Baby Great Lakes is a highly capable machine featuring fully aerobatic capabilities, allowing pilots to perform aggressive loops and barrel rolls on a Sunday afternoon. It is beloved for its highly responsive sports car-like handling, providing a visceral flying experience where the distinct smell of high-octane fuel and roaring wind dominate your senses. It is truly a pocket-sized adrenaline rush for the weekend warrior. A pocket biplane is an absolute thrill, but it is relatively safe compared to the notoriously dangerous personal chopper up next. The Mini 500 helicopter is a machine steeped in both incredible engineering ambition and incredibly dark, controversial history. Introduced in the 1990s as an affordable, home-built personal helicopter, it promised to bring rotary flight to the masses under the experimental aircraft rules. It was powered by a screaming two-stroke Rotax 582 engine producing about 64 horsepower. With an empty weight of roughly 330 pounds, it was light enough to be built and securely stored directly inside a standard residential one-car garage. Visually, the Mini 500 is an absolutely stunning piece of design. Intentionally modeled to look exactly like a drastically scaled-down version of the famous Hughes MD-500 turbine helicopter. It features a sleek teardrop-shaped fiberglass cabin, a robust tubular metal frame, and a menacing military-style profile. That made it look incredibly professional for a kit aircraft, sitting inside the tiny, fully enclosed bubble canopy. The pilot grips standard helicopter cyclic and collective controls, feeling exactly like a genuine combat pilot patrolling the skies above their own backyard. However, the Mini 500 gained a terrifying reputation due to chronic catastrophic engine failures and intense mechanical vibrations that famously tore the aircraft apart mid-flight. The high-revving two-stroke Rotax engine simply could not handle the continuous, brutal strain of helicopter operations, leading to numerous tragic crashes and earning it the grim nickname of the Widowmaker. It remains a legendary, infamous chapter in experimental micro-aviation history, if the Mini 500 was a dangerous trap. Our number 2 spot is a government prototype so bizarre, you literally had to pump it up. In the absolute height of the Cold War, the United States military demanded an aircraft that could be airdropped behind enemy lines in a box, inflated and flown to safety. Thus, the Goodyear Inflatoplane was born in 1956. This absolute fever dream of a military prototype was constructed entirely out of a rubberized fabric called airmat. Powered by a small 40-horsepower McCulloch two-stroke engine mounted on a metal pylon. The entire aircraft weighed just 225 pounds, allowing you to inflate it with a standard hand pump. Seeing the Inflatoplane in historical photos is a mind-bending experience, primarily because it genuinely looks like a massive military-grade balloon shaped roughly like an airplane. It completely lacks the rigid, sharp aerodynamic lines of metal aircraft, featuring instead slightly bulging, highly pressurized wings and a thick tubular sausage-like fuselage. The brave pilot sat entirely exposed in a shallow depression on top of the rubber body, steering with conventional metal cables running outside the inflated structure. It is a bizarre, squishy machine defying every logical instinct about aviation design. Incredibly, the Inflatoplane actually flew exceptionally well, proving to be surprisingly stable and structurally sound as long as the engine maintained internal air pressure. However, the multi-million-dollar project was ultimately scrapped by the military for one glaringly obvious fatal reason. A single enemy bullet, or even a well-aimed hunting arrow, could puncture the pressurized wing, causing the entire aircraft to deflate and plummet straight to the earth. An inflatable plane is hard to beat, but I promise you, nothing prepares you for the absolute insanity of our number 1 spot. Taking the final crown for the most extreme, rule-bending micro-aircraft in existence is the legendary Colomban Cri-Cri, officially recognized as the world's smallest twin-engine manned aircraft, designed in the 1970s by a French aeronautical engineer. This machine was built to prove you could create a fully aerobatic twin-engine fighter on a micro scale. Because it can easily hit cruise speeds of over 100 knots, it radically violates ultralight speed limits and must be registered as experimental. Astonishingly, the empty weight is a mere 172 pounds. The visual impact of the Cri-Cri is completely surreal. It looks exactly like a high-speed aluminum lawn dart with small wings that truly belong on a remote-controlled toy. The pilot sits in a tiny enclosed bubble canopy with their legs stretched out directly under the main fuel tank, effectively wearing the aircraft like a metal suit rather than sitting inside it. The 2 engines are mounted intimately close together on metal stalks protruding directly from the nose. A brilliant engineering trick designed to prevent spinning if one engine suddenly fails. When the Cri-Cri fires up, it does not sound like a traditional airplane. It shrieks loudly like a swarm of angry mechanical hornets, tearing down the runway and leaping into the sky with ferocious, unmatched energy, producing roughly 30 combined horsepower from its twin chainsaws engines. It is fully capable of pulling aggressive G-forces, performing snap rolls and loops. It provides a fighter jet-like adrenaline rush in a compact package. You can literally park in your living room. The Cri-Cri proves that with enough engineering genius, the sky truly has no limits. These incredible machines aren't just toys. They represent the ultimate quest for mechanical innovation and personal freedom in the skies. Whether they slide under ultralight laws or dominate the experimental category, they prove that the desire to fly will always find a way to break the rules. Now, I want to hear from you. If you had 200 hours of free time and $10,000, which one of these would you build in your garage? Which one did you find the strangest? Drop your answers in the comments below. If you enjoyed this deep dive into extreme machinery, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and ring the bell so you never miss a video. I'll see you in the next one.